Zelete, thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. West Africa is standing at a massive financial crossroad right now. And the story running across the region is simple. The era of using the colonial Cfa Franc is coming to an end. But while everyone agrees that change must happen, two completely different paths are being taken at the exact same time. On one hand, you have ordinary citizens and civil society leaders making direct demands from the bottom up. Just a few days ago in Bamako, Mali, over 300 delegates gathered for the People's Reform. They didn't gather to write long, complicated diplomatic statements. They came out with clear and compromising demands. They want an immediate end to the Cfa Franc. They want a complete negotiation of Africans' foreign debt with the IMF and World Bank. They want privatized public assets brought back under state control, and they want Africans to be able to travel across their own continent without visa barriers. What makes this movement serious is that they gave themselves a real deadline. Next month in Benin, they are taking these exact demands to the continental stage to force governments to listen. To understand why people are this angry, you have to look at what the Cfa Franc actually is. Created back in 1945, this currency is still used by 14 African nations today, and its rules mean African economies do not control their own financial fate. The value of the money in a market women's pocket in Mali or Senegal is permanently tied to the euro. When Europe makes decisions for its own economy, West African currencies move with it, whether it helps local businesses or hurts them. Even worse, the guarantee for this money does not come from an African central bank. It rests with the French treasury. For decades, the physical banknotes were not even printed on African soil. Even though some small administrative reforms happened a few years ago, the foundation remained the same. The peg to the euro stayed, the foreign guarantee stayed, and the dependency remained untouched. That brings us to the first real attempt to break away. The alliance of Sahel states, made up of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Their leaders made it clear that leaving the old system is the only way to achieve real independence. But instead of rushing to print their new money overnight without backing, they are doing something much smarter. They are building the infrastructure first. They have already launched a joint investment bank with over $800 million in capital funded by themselves. They are issuing a joint biometric passport, running joint media platforms, and setting up shared security forces. Gold in Mali and Burkina Faso, and Niger uranium deposit in Niger.
Dear brothers and sisters, listen. It is an announcement that resonates. As a historic turning point for Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, the alliance of Sahel states now displays clearly his intention to break with the Cfa Franc, a currency that its leaders describe as a colonial heritage. They call for monetary sovereignty, local resource transformation, and economic self-sufficiency. The Cfa Franc exit, although welcomed by many citizens, represents an economically complex project. Create a new currency, build an autonomous central bank, ensure financial stability, as many technical commitments that require serious planning and consistent strategic choices. It is your economic independence. Because as long as your currency is not a Swedish currency, as long as it's the others who beat your change for you, so you don't know, you can't control the monetary system. How it goes, you can't even control the value of money. It is not you who decide. It is the others who decide for you. As I said, I am not an expert in the field. I don't have much technical knowledge, but all I know is that logically, if you want to be honest, you must have a Portuguese currency. The announcement of this imminent exit from the franc CFA immediately provoked reactions. In the street of many citizens say they are proud and confident in the face of this historic change from other, wonder about the concrete consequences on their daily lives. If today we have a common currency, we have a common bank on the economic front. We can still, I try to compete even with the dollar and the euro. So we will not be afraid. So it's not even a question. It is a necessity, something that is really needed. For these three countries, the total sovereignty of a country. I've always said, 3 steps ago, 3 kinds of independence, that a state must have to talk about the sovereignty. And that means there has first of all political independence, cultural independence, and in the third line, economic independence. So we can't talk about the sovereignty so much. That one is not independent economically with already the Cfa Franc. The difficulty we have in financing our national economy. The availability of bank bills to instrumentalize our economy. We see how much the independence of the economy can be really useful to us. So if today we have our change, it means that we will really finance our developments. Interiors called endogenous development. We will finance this, and the youth, women, and especially industrialization will be accentuated at tell point that we can resell whatever we produce outside with this stance. The alliance of the Sahel states sends a strong signal that of an assumed break with the system, inherited from the past, remains to see if this political will translate into an architecture, credible and sustainable solid money. One thing is sure, the sovereignty dynamic in the region is well launched.
To really understand why this Sahel plan is so revolutionary, you have to look at how resource-backed currency works compared to a traditional fiat system. Most money used in the world today, including the US dollar or the euro, is what we call fiat money. Fiat money is not backed by gold, silver, or oil in a vault. It holds value simply because a government declares it has value and because people trust that government. The central bank can print more fiat money whenever it decides to, but if they print too much without real economic growth, the money loses purchasing power, prices shoot up, and inflation damages everyday household budgets. A resource-backed currency operates on a completely different set of rules. Instead of relying on trust in a paper promise or a foreign bank, every unit of paper money or digital currency is directly tied to a physical, tangible asset. In the case of the Sahel states, that means gold and uranium. Under a resource-backed model, a government cannot simply turn on the printing press and create paper money out of a thin air to cover its debts. If a central bank wants to issue more of its currency, it must actually possess or control a matching value of real physical assets, whether that is gold sitting in national reserves or verified mineral wealth like uranium deposits. This creates 2 massive advantages for a developing nation. First, it puts an automatic brake on inflation because the money supply is strictly limited by real physical wealth. The currency holds its purchasing power far better over time. Second, it gives the currency instant trust on the international market. Foreign traders and investors do not have to blindly trust a political promise. They know the money is anchored by real commodities that the entire world actually needs and buys every single day. The logic being put forward by the Sahel states is simple. Why depend on a foreign government's fiat paper money or borrow monetary credibility from Europe when the physical wealth sitting directly beneath African soil can back an African currency? At the exact same time, ECOWAS is trying to revive its own single currency project called the ECO. They recently announced a new deadline to launch the ECO by 2027. Now, if you have been following West African news for a long time, you know we have heard this before. Deadlines were set 2023, 25, 19, 15, 2020, and every single one was missed because member states could not meet strict financial requirements at the same time. This time, ECOWAS says they are changing the strategy. Instead of waiting for all 15 countries to be ready, the countries that meet the financial condition first will launch the currency and others will join later. On paper, Senegal's new president is leading ECOWAS during this crucial moment, but he is also managing heavy political battles back home. leaving many people wondering if ECOWAS can actually meet its 2027 target or if this will become another broken promise. So right now, West Africa has two distinct directions sitting side by side. Now we don't know what is going to happen in the future because on one side we have ECOWAS, and ECOWAS also has member states from the Francophone. Francophone nations are pushing for a different currency, and what ECOWAS is still pushing for is the fiat-backed whatever money system, and these ones are also looking for a new currency. They are also pushing for a currency that is backed by our resources. And this was the exact same thing that Muammar Gaddafi was trying to do, because he was saying that how do we have gold, yet we do not have a currency that is backed by gold. And we are still holding on to this money, this fiat paper that anybody at all can just print. And we believe it because the governments in Europe and in the United States of America are telling us that this money holds value, not because it holds value. And the more they print it, the more you and I suffer the more. So, according to the Sahelian leaders, it is better for us to use our own resources to get us what we want than to go to people to be printing their paper money for us and increasing inflation. And at the end of the day, we suffer because what they are doing doesn't tally with what we want. So what do you think? We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall. And united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we'll make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world, in Africa, West Africa, and in AES.